Obviously, we've got a couple of games tonight in the NHL. We saw Pittsburgh beat New York last night, but I want to get Phil's thoughts because Bill, Carlin, and myself, we talked for the last hour, Phil, about Randy Carlyle, and I'm not sure if you've heard the news or not.
I heard.
Okay, so Carlyle got the extension, 2 more years after next season. Not to say he's going to coach all 3 years, but I think the fact that he's coming back surprises a lot of people. His assistants aren't coming back, Farish, Gordon, and Cronin. What's your reaction, Phil, as someone outside of the GTA, to the news?
Well, in the first place, I feel like this is severance pay for Randy. I don't know if it gets off to a bad start.
Right.
I don't understand then letting the assistant coaches go. I don't get that one. Usually the head coach picks his assistants and at least asks, I'd like to have this guy, and so you bring him in and you do the interview and whatever, and then if you're okay with it, you said okay, that's to the assistant coach, because the head coach should pick his assistant coaches, aka always everywhere Tortorella went since 2005. Sullivan was with him, Mike Sullivan.
Correct.
Everywhere, and I remember when I took over the Ranger job, I asked Teddy Sater, I said, I think you should get rid of your assistant coaches. Similar to what Toronto did. I said, let's get a couple other guys in there. Now, Teddy Sater didn't want to do that, and it ended up costing him his job along with the other guys. But this surprises me. You give Randy an extension of 2 more years, but you fire his assistant coaches. Doesn't the head coach, Billy, you should know this, doesn't the head coach pick his assistants?
Well, he does, and I was telling the guys the story, Phil, between 3 and 4. My information tells me that Hitchcock signed the contract that was announced this week in the middle of the season.
No.
But he had both of his assistants fired this week. So that's, and Hitchcock is on a 1-year deal.
Right.
So, but I'm with you. Usually, the coach will have a little bit of comfort in at least a 2-year deal. But Hitchcock he's on 1, and that's not exactly an ideal situation to bring an assistant into. So I gather that Doug Armstrong has told, look, Hitch, you're the head coach, but I'm going to have a participation in who we hire as your assistants. Because normally it's like you say it is, Phil.
Yeah.
You give the head coach the prerogative. But with Carlyle, those 2 guys, Gordon and Cronin, were both hired by Burke and stuck with Wilson. Wilson didn't get the chance. He could keep 2 of his coach or 1 of his assistants, but the other 2 were going to be Cronin and Gordon.
Correct.
And then Carlyle came, and he had his choice. He had 1 choice, and he took Dave Farish.
Yeah.
And as I said to the guys, I won't be at all surprised if they hire Mike Foligno, who is one of Carlyle's pals and is a good man, as you know, Phil.
Yeah.
And I just think would be a very good guy for that dressing room and that group of characters that the Leafs got on their team now. So I won't be surprised if Randy Carlyle said, okay, you can fire Farish, you can do whatever you want, but I want Foligno. And I would think that Brendan Shanahan would be more than happy to have Mike Foligno as an assistant coach.
I got you.
And we should note Foligno was an assistant with New Jersey last year.
Yes, he was. He'd have to get release.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Lou signed him to a 1-year deal or not. And if he's under contract, then he may never coach in Toronto.
Fair enough. But an interesting call. And Phil, I agree with Phil. Usually the assistant coaches are the ones who stay and the head coach goes. But Bill brings up the excellent point. Those 2 assistant coaches, or 2 of the 3, weren't Randy's assistant coaches anyway.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how much input Randy has in the assistant coaches outside of possibly a Mike Foligno. We'll see what happens there. But
and if he's under contract, they're not going to give
right.
anything up for Foligno, and I say that very respectfully to Mike. I think he'd be a hell of an assistant.
Yeah.
But if Lou Lamoriello says, well, I want a third-round pick, they're going to say, well, Lou, you can go fishing in the Bay of New Jersey and see if you can get one.
Yeah, for sure.